Lihanna sat in the back corner of the classroom, her eyes half closed as Mr. Park droned on about ancient history. Nobody looked at her. Nobody ever did. She was like a ghost in her own school, present but unseen. The other students chatted and laughed, passing notes and checking their phones under their desks. Hannah just stared at the clock, counting down the minutes. When the bell finally rang, everyone rushed out. Kim Ji-woo bumped into Hannah in the doorway, her expensive bag hitting Hannah's shoulder hard. Ji-woo didn't even glance back. She was too busy laughing with her friends about some party this weekend. Hannah picked up her bag and walked out silently. The subway was crowded. Hannah stood in the corner, pressed against the door. A businessman pushed past her without apology. A mother with a baby didn't see her standing there. It was always like this, invisible, after 3 trains and 2 buses. Hannah reached the edge of the city where the buildings looked abandoned and empty. She walked down a cracked alley and pressed her hand against what looked like a dirty brick wall. A scanner read her fingerprints. The wall slid open. Hannah stepped into a bright corridor that led deep underground. The hidden military base stretched for miles beneath the city. Soldiers in combat gear rushed past her, but these people didn't ignore her. They saluted. "Captain Lee," a young officer said, standing straight. "The briefing room is ready." Hannah nodded and headed toward the command center. Her reflection appeared in the polished metal walls. Gone was the tired schoolgirl. This was Captain Lee Hannah, the youngest combat officer in Earth's defense force. The most decorated soldier in the war against the Vorten Empire. The person with more confirmed alien kills than anyone else in human history. The war had started 4 years ago when the Vortens arrived in Earth's solar system. They were a massive empire of 12 different alien species, all working together to conquer the galaxy. They looked at humans and saw easy prey. Weak little creatures with primitive technology. The Vortens destroyed 3 colony ships in the first week. They laughed at Earth's military response, but they didn't laugh for long. Humans were weaker than Vortens, slower, smaller. Human weapons were less advanced. Human ships were outdated. But humans had something the Vortens didn't understand. Creativity, adaptability, ruthlessness when cornered. And they had Captain Lee Hannah. Hannah entered the briefing room where her ghost battalion waited. 30 elite soldiers, all veterans, all twice her age. They stood when she entered. Lieutenant Choi Minho, her second in command, pulled up a holographic display. "We have a new mission," Hannah said, her voice calm and steady. "Intelligence has located a Vorten command ship in orbit around Mars. They're planning the next wave of attacks on our colonies. We need to board that ship, steal their encryption codes, and get out before they jump to hyperspace." One soldier raised his hand. "Captain, their command ships have over 2,000 warriors on board. How do we get past them?" Hannah smiled slightly. "We don't. We go through them." The mission launched at midnight. Hannah and her battalion loaded into stealth pods, small one-person capsules that could slip past enemy sensors. They shot through space like bullets, aimed directly at the Vorten command ship. The massive vessel looked like a floating city, covered in weapons and armor plating. The pods attached to the ship's hull with magnetic clamps. Hannah activated her cutting torch and burned through the metal. Alarms started blaring immediately. Red lights flashed throughout the ship. The Vortens knew they were under attack. Hannah dropped into a corridor and immediately opened fire. 3 Vorten warriors fell before they could raise their weapons. Her battalion poured in behind her, weapons blazing. The Vortens were huge creatures, standing over 8 feet tall with thick armor-like skin. But they were slow to react. Hannah moved like water, flowing around their attacks and striking at weak points. "Move forward," she ordered over the radio. "Minho, take your team left." "I'll go right." "Meet at the command deck." The firefight was brutal. Plasma bolts burned through walls. Explosions rocked the ship. Hannah's team fought through corridor after corridor, pushing deeper into the enemy vessel. She lost 3 soldiers in the first 10 minutes. 5 more in the next 20. Each loss hurt, but she couldn't stop. The mission came first. They reached the command deck to find 50 Vorten warriors waiting. The enemy commander stood in the center, a massive creature covered in battle scars. He roared a challenge in his alien language. Hannah didn't understand the words, but she understood the meaning. He wanted to fight her personally. Hannah threw a grenade instead. The explosion sent Vortons flying. Her battalion charged in, guns firing. Hannah moved through the chaos, heading straight for the command console. Bullets and plasma fire filled the air around her. One bolt grazed her arm, burning through her suit. She ignored the pain. She reached the console and plugged in her data drive. The encryption codes started downloading. The Vorton commander recovered from the grenade blast and charged at her, his massive fists raised. Hannah rolled under his swing and shot him in the knee. He collapsed with a roar. She finished the download, yanked out the drive, and shot the commander in the head. "Everyone out, now!" She screamed into the radio. They ran back the way they came, fighting every step. More soldiers fell. Lieutenant Minho took a plasma bolt to the chest, but kept moving, dragging a wounded soldier with him. They reached the extraction pods and launched just as Vorton reinforcements arrived. The pods shot back into space. Behind them, the Vorton command ship's engines powered up for a hyperspace jump. But it was too late. Hannah had the codes. Earth's intelligence division could now decode every Vorton transmission. This was a major victory. Back at base, Hannah filed her report and walked back to the surface. The sun was rising. She had to get home, shower, and head to school. Her arm still burned from the plasma graze, but she covered it with her school uniform. Nobody would notice anyway. In class later that morning, she could barely keep her eyes open. Mr. Park was talking about some ancient war, soldiers fighting with swords and shields. Hannah wanted to laugh. She had just fought in space with weapons that could melt through steel. But she stayed quiet, invisible as always. During lunch, she sat alone under a tree, eating a sandwich. Park Do-yeon walked by, a quiet boy from her physics class. He glanced at her, seemed like he might say something, but then just kept walking. Hannah watched him go. She wondered what it would be like to have a normal life. To worry about tests and friends and school drama instead of war and death. Her phone buzzed. Another mission briefing in 6 hours? Hannah finished her sandwich and closed her eyes. She had 3 hours until next class. Maybe she could sleep a little. On the battlefield, she was unstoppable. At school, she was invisible. And that was exactly how it had to be. Admiral Song stood in front of the massive view screen, watching the tactical display with tired eyes. Red dots showed Vorton fleet positions throughout the solar system. There were too many of them. He turned when Captain Lee Hannah entered the command center. "The codes you recovered were invaluable," Admiral Song said. "We've been intercepting their communications for the past week. And we found something disturbing." Hannah stepped closer to the display. "How disturbing?" "They're gathering a massive invasion fleet. Every ship they have. Target is Earth. We have 3 months, maybe less." The Admiral's voice was heavy. "I'm promoting you to Major and giving you command of planetary defense. Stop them, or we all die." Hannah was 19 years old. Most of the officers in the room were older than her parents. But nobody questioned the promotion. They had all seen her combat records. She was the best humanity had. "I'll need full authority," Hannah said. "No politicians interfering with tactical decisions." "You have it. Save us, Major Lee." Back at school the next day, Hannah tried to focus on a physics test. Her mind kept drifting to defense calculations, fleet positions, kill zones. She barely noticed when someone sat down next to her during lunch. It was Park Do-yeon, holding his tray and looking nervous. "Is this seat taken?" he asked quietly. Hannah looked around. The entire courtyard was empty except for them. "No," she said. Do-yeon sat down and unpacked his lunch. He didn't say anything for a while, just ate his food. Finally, he pulled out a book about Earth's defense fleet. "Do you ever wonder what it's like out there, fighting the Vortons?" Hannah almost laughed. "Sometimes," she said carefully. "I'm applying to the military academy," Do-yeon said. "My parents think I'm crazy. They want me to study business. But I want to do something that matters, you know? Help protect people." Hannah looked at him properly for the first time. He had kind eyes, innocent. He had no idea what war really looked like. The blood, the screaming, the bodies floating in space. "It's dangerous," she said. "I know, but someone has to do it." He smiled at her. "Hey, we have that group project in physics. Want to work on it together?" Everyone else already paired up. They spent the next week meeting after school to work on calculations about orbital mechanics. Hannah had to pretend she didn't already know advanced astrophysics. She caught herself several times almost mentioning tactical information that no high school student should know. Doyan was smart, though. He figured out the problems quickly. "You're really good at this," he said one afternoon. "You should consider military engineering." If only he knew, Hannah thought. 2 weeks before the Vorten invasion was scheduled to arrive, the enemy fleet jumped into the system early. Alarms blared across Earth. Hannah was in history class when her phone vibrated with the emergency code. She stood up in the middle of Mr. Park's lecture and ran out of the classroom. She heard Doan call her name behind her, confused and worried. The command center was chaos when she arrived. The view screen showed hundreds of Vorten ships dropping out of hyperspace near the moon. Earth's defense fleet was scrambling to intercept, but they were outnumbered 5-1. "Status," Hannah snapped, pulling out her combat armor. "They're hitting us hard," Lieutenant Minho reported. "Orbital stations 3 and 7 are already gone. They're pushing toward Earth." Hannah studied the tactical display. The Vorten formation was aggressive, meant to overwhelm through sheer numbers. But it left their command ship exposed. "Get me Ghost Battalion. We're going straight for their flagship." "Major, that's suicide," Admiral Song said. "They'll have thousands of warriors protecting it. Then we'll kill thousands of warriors." Hannah's voice was ice cold. "If we take out their command, the rest of the fleet will fall apart. It's our only chance." The assault pods launched 30 minutes later. Hannah led 50 soldiers toward the Vorten flagship, a massive ship 3 times larger than Earth's biggest carrier. Plasma fire filled space around them as they approached. 2 pods exploded, soldiers dying instantly. They crashed into the flagship's hull and cut their way inside. The Vorten warriors were waiting. Wave after wave of massive aliens armed with plasma weapons charged at them. Hannah moved like death itself, her rifle firing in controlled bursts, headshots, center mass. Weak points in armor. Every bullet found a target. "Push forward," she ordered. "Don't stop for anything." They fought through the ship, leaving bodies behind them. Hannah's armor was scorched and dented. Blood ran down her face from a cut above her eye. Her shoulder burned where a plasma bolt had grazed it. She didn't slow down. The Vorten bridge was a massive chamber filled with holographic displays and command consoles. The Supreme Commander stood in the center, a creature even larger than normal Vortens. He was covered in medals and battle scars. When he saw Hannah, he roared and charged. Hannah ducked under his first swing and shot him in the knee. He stumbled but didn't fall. She rolled behind him and planted explosive charges on the support columns. The commander grabbed her by the throat and lifted her off the ground. His grip was crushing. Hannah couldn't breathe. She pulled out her combat knife and stabbed it into his eye. The commander screamed and dropped her. Hannah hit the ground, gasping for air. She activated the charges. "Everyone out now!" She screamed into the radio. Her battalion ran for the extraction pods. The charges detonated just as they launched. The entire command bridge exploded, venting into space. The Vorten commander and his entire staff died instantly. Without leadership, the Vorten fleet began falling apart. Ships collided with each other. Some tried to retreat. Earth's fleet pressed the attack. The battle lasted 6 more hours, but the outcome was decided. Earth won its first major victory. The news spread across the planet. Celebrations erupted in every city. Humanity had proven they could beat the VOR-TANs. Hannah returned to the command center covered in burns and bruises. Admiral Song personally congratulated her. "You did it, Major. You saved Earth." But Hannah could only think about the soldiers she had lost. 15 good people who would never go home. She filed her report and went to medical for treatment. The doctors patched her up and told her to rest. She ignored them and went home to shower and change. 3 days later, she returned to school. Everyone was still talking about the battle, the mysterious commander known as the Ghost who had led the assault. Nobody knew who the Ghost really was. The military kept Hana's identity classified for security reasons. Doyan found her at lunch. "Where were you?" he asked. "You ran out of class and disappeared for 3 days. I was worried." "Family emergency," Hana lied. "Everything's okay now?" He looked at her closely. There were new bruises on her face that makeup couldn't completely hide. A burn mark on her hand. "Are you sure you're okay? You look hurt." "I'm fine," Hana said. But she appreciated his concern. In a school full of people who didn't see her, Doyan noticed. It felt strange and nice at the same time. "Did you hear about the battle?" Doyan asked excitedly. "This Ghost Commander is amazing. They say she's the best soldier humanity has ever produced. I can't wait to join the fleet. Maybe I'll get to serve under her command someday." Hana looked down at her lunch. "Maybe," she said quietly. That night she stood on her apartment balcony, watching the stars. Somewhere up there, the Vorten Empire was regrouping. This victory wouldn't stop them. They would come back stronger, angrier. More people would die. More soldiers under her command would fall. She thought about Doyan's excitement about joining the military. His innocent belief that war was glorious. She wanted to tell him the truth. That war was hell. That every victory came soaked in blood. That she carried the faces of every dead soldier in her nightmares, but she couldn't tell him anything. Her identity had to stay secret. So she would keep being invisible at school and unstoppable on the battlefield. It was the only way to protect the people she fought for. Even if they never knew her name, the war escalated fast. After their defeat at Earth, the Vorten Empire declared total war against humanity. They stopped treating humans as weak prey and started seeing them as a real threat. That made them even more dangerous. Major Lee Hana stood in the command center, reviewing intelligence reports. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. She had slept maybe 10 hours in the past week. Every day brought new battles, new decisions, new deaths. At 20 years old, she commanded 3 battalions and coordinated with fleet operations across the solar system. "Major, you need rest," Lieutenant Minho said quietly. "You're going to burn out." "I'll rest when the war is over," Hana replied, studying a tactical map. The Vortens were hitting supply lines now, trying to cut off human colonies from support. Smart strategy. She had to counter it before colonies started falling. Admiral Song entered the command center looking grim. "We have a problem." Intelligence intercepted Vorten communications about an assassination squad. "They're targeting high-value human commanders. You're the primary target." Hana wasn't surprised. The Vortens had put a massive bounty on her head. "When do they arrive?" "They're already here. On Earth, somewhere." At school the next day, Hana found herself jumping at shadows. Every stranger could be an enemy agent. Every sound could be an attack. She sat in physics class barely listening, constantly scanning the room for threats. "Hana?" Doyan's voice broke through her thoughts. "Are you okay? You seem really on edge." She forced a smile. "Just tired." "Haven't been sleeping well? Want to get coffee after school? I found this cool place near the library." He looked hopeful. Hana almost said no. Spending time with Doyan felt dangerous now. If the Vortens found out about him, they might use him to get to her. But his kind face made her weak. Sure, she heard herself say, the coffee shop was small and quiet. Doyan talked about his acceptance letter from the military academy. He was excited but nervous. "My parents finally agreed to let me go. I start next year." Hana sipped her coffee, wondering how to warn him without revealing too much. "Military life isn't like the movies. It's hard. Really hard." "I know," Doyan said. "But after what the Ghost did, defending Earth like that, I want to be part of something bigger." "Don't you ever feel that way? Like you want to matter?" "I think everyone matters," Hana said carefully. "You don't need to fight in a war to be important. They talked for 2 hours. For the first time in months, Hana felt almost normal, like a regular teenager having coffee with a friend. She laughed at Doyen's jokes about their physics teacher. She told him about her favorite books. She forgot about the war just for a little while, then her phone buzzed. Emergency code. Attack in progress. I have to go, Hana said, standing quickly. Family thing? She ran out before Doyen could ask questions. The message said the Vorton assassination squad had hit a supply convoy on the edge of the city. They were heading toward the hidden military base. Toward her. Hana reached the base to find chaos. The assassins had killed 6 guards and breached the outer perimeter. These weren't normal Vorton warriors. They were smaller, faster, equipped with advanced cloaking technology and plasma blades. Elite hunters. She grabbed her combat gear and headed into the facility. The lights flickered. Bodies of human soldiers lay in the corridors. The assassins were methodical, deadly. Hana moved carefully, her rifle ready. A shimmer in the air gave away the first assassin's position. Hana fired, the bullets revealing the cloaked figure. The assassin dodged, moving impossibly fast. They fought hand-to-hand in the tight corridor. The Vorton was skilled, trained in dozens of fighting styles. But Hana had real combat experience. She broke his arm, took his plasma blade, and stabbed him with it. 2 more assassins appeared from side passages. Hana threw the blade at one, hitting him in the throat. The other rushed her. They crashed through a doorway into a storage room. The Vorton slashed at her with energy claws. Hana rolled under his attack, grabbed a piece of metal pipe, and smashed his knee. He fell, and she finished him. The last 2 assassins attacked together. These were smarter, more careful. They worked as a team, covering each other's blind spots. Hana fought desperately, taking cuts and burns. Her armor was shredded. Blood ran down her side from a deep gash. She lured them into a narrow passage where they couldn't flank her. Then she dropped a grenade and ran. The explosion collapsed the ceiling, crushing one assassin. The other survived, but was badly injured. Hana stood over him, her rifle pointed at his head. Why? She asked in the Vorton language she had learned. Why am I such a threat to your empire? The dying assassin looked up at her with 4 yellow eyes. You make them afraid, he said in broken human language. You are small, weak, but you kill like demon. They call you Reaper. You haunt their dreams. He died before Hana could ask more questions. She limped back to the command center, her entire body aching. Medical treated her wounds, 23 injuries ranging from minor to serious. She refused pain medication. She needed to stay alert. The next day at school, Hana moved stiffly. She wore long sleeves to hide the bandages. During gym class, Kim Ji-woo actually noticed her for once, but only to make a mean comment. Wow, Lee-Hana, you're even more useless at sports than usual. What's wrong with you? Hana ignored her and kept walking. Pain shot through her side with every step. She just wanted the day to end. After class, Doyeon caught up with her in the hallway. His face was worried. Hana, something's wrong. You disappeared yesterday, and now you're hurt. Is someone hurting you? Your family? A boyfriend? His genuine concern touched something deep inside her. Hana wanted to tell him everything. She was so tired of carrying the weight alone. It's nothing, she said. I just fell. I'm clumsy. You're not clumsy, Doyeon said firmly. And you're a terrible liar. Look, you don't have to tell me what's going on. But if you need help, I'm here, okay? Hana nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She walked away quickly before she broke down. That night, she stood in front of her bathroom mirror. Bandages covered her torso, arms, and legs. Scars from previous battles marked her skin like a map of violence. She was 20 years old and looked 30. The war was consuming her piece by piece. Her phone buzzed. Another briefing. Another mission. Hana put on her uniform and headed out. Earth's government was planning a massive counteroffensive to reclaim occupied colonies. They wanted to show strength, boost morale. Hana thought it was a mistake. The timing was wrong. But politicians didn't listen to soldiers. The operation launched a week later. Initially, it went well. Human forces reclaimed 2 colonies in quick strikes. Celebrations erupted back on Earth. Victory seemed possible. Then the trap closed. A massive Vorten armada appeared from hyperspace, 3 times larger than intelligence estimates. The human fleet was surrounded, cut off from retreat. Hannah watched from the command center as red dots swarmed the tactical display. They had walked right into an ambush. "All ships, fighting retreat," Admiral Song ordered. "Get as many people out as possible." But the Vortens had deployed jump inhibitors. The human fleet couldn't escape to hyperspace. They were trapped, outnumbered, and dying. Ship after ship went dark on the tactical display. Thousands of soldiers and crew members dying every minute. Hannah stared at the screen, her mind racing through scenarios. There was only one option. Someone had to destroy those jump inhibitors. A suicide mission deep into enemy territory. She turned to Admiral Song. "I'm going," she said. "Ghost Battalion volunteers for the assault." "Major, you won't come back from this. I know." Hannah's voice was steady. "But it's the only way to save the fleet." She gathered her battalion and explained the mission. Every soldier understood it was one way. None of them refused. They trusted Major Lee Hannah completely. If anyone could turn a suicide mission into something survivable, it was her. They launched into hell. The space battle raged around their assault pods as they pushed toward the Vorten command ship. Hannah watched soldiers die one by one, pods exploding in bursts of fire. Each death cut her deeper than any blade, but she couldn't stop. The mission came first. It always did. That was the weight she carried. The weight of knowing that she would sacrifice anything, anyone, to save humanity. Even herself. The assault pods crashed into the Vorten command ship like bullets. Hannah's pod door exploded outward and she rolled into a corridor filled with enemy warriors. Her rifle barked, dropping 3 Vortens before they could react. Behind her, Ghost Battalion poured through the breach, weapons blazing. "Move forward, don't stop," Hannah ordered, checking her tactical display. The jump inhibitor was buried deep in the ship's core. They had to fight through 2 kilometers of enemy territory. "Minho, left quarter." "I'll take right." "Meet at the core." Lieutenant Choi Minho nodded, his face grim behind his helmet. "See you there, Major?" The battle was pure chaos. Plasma fire filled the air, burning through metal and flesh alike. Hannah moved through the carnage like a force of nature, every movement precise and deadly. But the Vortens kept coming. Wave after wave of massive warriors. "We lost Squad 3, someone reported over the radio. "Squad 7 is gone," another voice said. Hannah pushed forward, ignoring the reports. She had to ignore them. If she stopped to grieve for every fallen soldier, she would freeze up. Grief was for later. Now was for fighting. They reached an intersection where 30 Vorten warriors had set up a defensive position. Heavy plasma cannons covered the only route forward. Hannah studied the situation for 3 seconds, then made her decision. "Cover me," she said, and charged straight at the enemy position. Her battalion thought she was crazy, but they followed anyway. They always did. Hannah threw grenades as she ran, creating smoke and confusion. She slid under the first cannon's fire and stabbed the operator with her combat knife. The other Vortens turned to face her, leaving themselves exposed. Her soldiers cut them down. "Keep moving," Hannah shouted, reloading her rifle. Blood ran down her arm from a fresh wound. She didn't know if it was hers or alien. "Didn't matter." Lieutenant Minho's voice crackled over the radio. "Major, I'm pinned down. They've got us surrounded. We can't reach the core." Hannah checked her tactical map. Minho's squad was 3 corridors away, trapped between 2 enemy forces. "Hold position." "I'm coming." "Negative, Major. Complete the mission." "That's an order from me to you." Minho's voice was calm despite the sound of gunfire behind him. "We'll buy you time." "Minho, don't. It's been an honor serving with you, Major Lee." The connection cut off. Explosions echoed through the ship. On the tactical display, Minho's squad markers started disappearing one by one. Hannah wanted to scream. But she pushed the emotion down deep. She would grieve later. She would carry Minho's face in her nightmares. But right now, she had to finish the mission. She owed him that much. Her remaining soldiers reached the core chamber. 20 soldiers left from the original 200. The jump inhibitor was a massive device pulsing with blue energy. Vorten technicians scrambled to defend it, but Hana's team cut them down quickly. "Plant the charges," Hana ordered, moving to the device's control panel. She needed to disable the safety protocols before detonation, or the charges wouldn't do enough damage, Sergeant Kong Soman. Her communications officer worked on placing explosives around the core. The other soldiers formed a defensive perimeter. More Vortens were coming. They could hear the footsteps echoing through the corridors. Hana worked fast, her fingers flying over the alien controls. She had studied Vorten technology for years, learned their systems. The safety protocols started disengaging one by one. "Almost there. Charges set," Soman reported. "But Major, we have a problem. The detonator was damaged. Someone has to trigger it manually." Hana's blood went cold. Manual trigger meant someone staying behind. "How long to fix the remote detonator?" 20 minutes, maybe more? "We don't have that time." Soman looked at the corridor where enemy footsteps were getting louder. "They'll be here in 2 minutes." "Everyone evacuate," Hana said immediately. "I'll trigger it manually." "No," Soman's voice was firm. "You're too important, Major. The war needs you." "I'm just a communications officer." "That's an order, Sergeant." "With respect, screw your orders." Soman smiled, then hit Hana with a stun charge from her sidearm. Hana's body seized up, paralyzed. She fell to the ground, unable to move or speak. Soman and 2 other soldiers dragged her toward the extraction pod. Hana could only watch helplessly as Soman returned to the core chamber. "Tell the Major," Soman said over the radio, "that she taught me how to be brave. Tell her it was worth it." They shoved Hana into the extraction pod and launched it. Through the window, Hana saw the Vorten command ship for just a moment. Then a massive explosion tore through its center. The jump inhibitor was destroyed. The human fleet could escape now, but Sergeant Kong Soman was gone, along with everyone who stayed with her. 3 more names added to the list of soldiers who died under Hana's command. 3 more faces for her nightmares. The pod docked with a human ship. Medical personnel pulled Hana out, treating her injuries. The stun charge wore off slowly. By the time she could move again, the battle was over. The human fleet had escaped. They lost 40 ships but saved hundreds more. By military standards, it was a victory. Hana sat in the medical bay, staring at nothing. Admiral Song came to congratulate her personally. "You did it, Major. Enough. Our impossible mission completed. You saved the fleet." She didn't feel like a hero. She felt hollow, empty. Minho was dead. Soman was dead. 183 soldiers from Ghost Battalion were dead. All because she led them into hell. "I need a few days," Hana said quietly. "Personal time." Admiral Song studied her face and nodded. "Take a week." "You've earned it." Hana went back to school like a zombie. She sat in class but didn't hear anything the teachers said. She existed in a fog of grief and exhaustion. The other students didn't notice anything different. She was always quiet and invisible to them anyway. During lunch, she sat under her usual tree, not eating. Doyan found her there. He didn't say anything at first, just sat down beside her. After a long silence, he spoke. "I don't know what's happening with you, but you look like you've lost something important." Hana felt tears building behind her eyes. She fought them back. Soldiers didn't cry. Commanders didn't cry. But the tears came anyway, silent and hot. Doyan put his hand on her shoulder. "It's okay," he said softly. "Whatever it is, it's okay to hurt." She cried for 10 minutes while Doyan sat quietly beside her. He didn't ask questions, didn't demand explanations, just stayed there, a steady presence in her storm of grief. When she finally stopped, Hana wiped her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "Anytime," Doyan said. "That's what friends do." That night, Earth celebrated another military victory. News channels showed footage of the battle, talking about the mysterious ghost commander who led the suicide mission. They called her a hero. They said she saved thousands of lives. Hannah watched the broadcast from her apartment, her face blank. They didn't show the 183 badas. They didn't mention the names of the soldiers who actually saved the fleet by staying behind. Victory always looked clean and glorious on TV, but Hannah knew the truth. Victory was built on corpses. Her phone buzzed. A message from Doyan. Saw the news about the battle. This ghost person is amazing. I hope I can be that brave someday. Hannah stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed, real bravery isn't about not being afraid. It's about being terrified and doing what needs to be done anyway. The ghost knows that better than anyone. She hit send and put her phone down. Outside her window, the city was lit up with celebration. People were happy, safe, protected. They didn't know what it cost. They didn't need to know. That was Hannah's burden to carry. On the battlefield, she was unstoppable. In victory, she was hollow. And at school, she was invisible. Maybe that's what she deserved. Heroes and stories got glory and recognition. Real soldiers just got scars and nightmares. Hannah looked at her reflection in the dark window. 20 years old with the eyes of someone much older. She wondered how much more she could take before she broke completely. But it didn't matter. The war wasn't over. The Vortons would come again. And when they did, she would fight. Because that's what she was. Not a hero. Just a soldier doing an impossible job. The war room was silent except for the hum of tactical displays. Every military commander on Earth stared at the screen showing what was coming. Admiral Song's face was pale. This is everything they have, he said quietly. Every Vorton ship, every warrior, every weapon. They're betting their entire empire on destroying Earth. Hannah studied the numbers. 3,000 Vorton ships. Millions of warriors. Weapons that could crack continents. They would arrive in 2 weeks. Earth's defenses looked pathetic in comparison. Can we win? Someone asked. Hannah didn't answer right away. She calculated odds, analyzed strategies, ran scenarios in her head. Finally, she spoke. Maybe, if everything goes perfectly. If we're lucky. If I don't make any mistakes, she looked at Admiral Song. I need complete authority. No interference from politicians or bureaucrats. Every soldier, every ship, every weapon under my direct command. Admiral Song nodded. The Council has already voted. As of now, you are Supreme Commander of Earth's military forces. Win or lose, it's in your hands. Major Lihana was 21 years old. She was about to fight the biggest battle in human history. And she was terrified. But terror was familiar. She had learned to function through fear. At school the next day, everything felt surreal. Students worried about exams and gossip while Hannah carried the weight of humanity's survival. She sat in class, barely present, planning defensive formations in her head. During lunch, Doyan found her. He looked excited. I got my academy acceptance letter. I start right after graduation. Then he noticed her expression. Hey, what's wrong? Hannah almost told him everything. The words were right there, but she swallowed them. Just thinking about the future, she said. The war's getting worse, isn't it? Doyan said quietly. The news keeps trying to sound positive, but I can tell. They're scared, yeah. They sat in silence for a while. Then Doyan said, Want to go for a walk? You look like you could use some air. They walked through a park near school. Autumn leaves covered the ground. Children played on swings. Normal life continuing while war approached. Hannah tried to memorize the moment. If Earth fell, these simple, peaceful days would be gone forever. I'm scared, Doyan admitted. About joining the military. About the war, but also excited. Does that make sense? It makes sense, Hannah said. Fear and excitement can exist together. She stopped walking and looked at him seriously. Listen to me. When you join the academy, don't try to be a hero. Heroes die fast. Be smart, be careful. Value your life. Doyan looked confused by her intensity. I will, but why are you saying this like it's goodbye? Because it might be, Hannah thought. Just promise me, she said. I promise. They sat on a bench as the sun set. Hannah felt strangely peaceful despite everything. This was probably the last normal moment she would have before the battle. She wanted to remember it. Remember what she was fighting for? Do you ever feel like you know someone without really knowing them? Doyan asked. That's how I feel about you sometimes. Like there's this whole part of you I can't see. Maybe there is, Hannah said quietly. The Vorten fleet arrived exactly when predicted. They came out of hyperspace like a swarm, blocking out the stars. Alarms blared across Earth, every defense system activated. Orbital platforms, drone swarms, minefields. Everything humanity had built. Hannah stood in the command center, surrounded by screens showing different battle zones. All forces, this is Supreme Commander Lee, hold the line. Make them pay for every inch. Fight smart, fight hard. Humanity survives today. The battle started. Space lit up with weapons fire. Vorten ships crashed into Earth's defenses. Some were destroyed, but most pushed through. They started orbital bombardment, hitting military targets and cities. The death count rose by the thousands every minute. Hannah coordinated everything, moving forces to critical points, pulling back from lost positions, reinforcing breakthroughs. She barely slept, barely ate. She lived on stimulants and pure willpower. Days blurred together in endless combat on day 3. Vorten drop pods began landing on Earth. Ground battles erupted across every continent. Hannah took direct command of forces in Asia, flying between combat zones in a transport ship. She fought on the front lines when needed, her rifle in hand. In Seoul, she led a defense against a Vorten battalion. The aliens tore through buildings, their plasma weapons burning everything. Human soldiers fought desperately, buying time for civilian evacuations. Hannah stood in the ruins of her old school, firing at enemies where she used to eat lunch. The irony was bitter. On day 5, the Vorten Emperor himself landed on Earth. He brought his elite guard and announced he would personally kill the ghost. He wanted to. End this war with her head as a trophy. Let him come, Hannah said when she heard. She was exhausted, wounded, running on fumes. But if the Emperor wanted to fight, she would give him one. They met in the ruins of downtown Seoul. The Emperor was massive, nearly 12 feet tall, covered in ceremonial armor. He carried twin plasma blades. Behind him, his elite guard formed a circle. This was a challenge, warrior to warrior. Hannah stepped forward with just her combat knife and pistol. She looked tiny compared to the Emperor. The alien laughed, a deep rumbling sound. You are the Reaper? He said in perfect human language. You are nothing. An insect pretending to be a predator. Let's find out, Hannah said. The Emperor attacked first, his blades moving impossibly fast. Hannah dodged, rolled, used rubble as cover. She couldn't match his strength or reach. But she was faster, more flexible. She learned his patterns, found openings. They fought for 20 minutes. Hannah took hits, burns from plasma grazing her armor. But she gave as good as she got. She shot out his knee, making him stumble. She used a fallen steel beam as a lever to topple a building section onto him. The Emperor emerged from the rubble, roaring in anger. His guards moved to help, but he ordered them back. His pride demanded he finish this personally. Big mistake. Hannah led him into a partially collapsed structure, using the narrow spaces to negate his size advantage. She planted explosives as she moved, hidden in the debris. When the Emperor charged, she detonated them. The building collapsed completely. The Emperor was buried under tons of concrete and steel. Hannah barely escaped, diving through a window as everything came down. She lay in the rubble, gasping for air, her body screaming with pain. The Emperor's guard rushed in, but they were confused and leaderless. Hannah's forces struck then, wiping them out. Word spread fast through the Vorten ranks. Their Emperor was dead? Killed by a single human soldier, the Vorten fleet began falling apart. Ships retreated. Ground forces surrendered or fled. Without their Emperor and Supreme Command, their rigid military structure crumbled. Humanity pressed the advantage, destroying as many ships as possible before they could escape to hyperspace. After 72 hours of continuous battle, it was over. The Vorten Empire was broken. Earth was saved. Humanity had won the war. Hannah collapsed in the command center, her body finally giving out. Medical rushed her to emergency treatment. She had dozens of injuries, severe dehydration, and complete exhaustion. They said she shouldn't be alive. She woke up 3 days later in a hospital bed. Admiral Song was there, smiling. "You did it. The war is over. The Vortens have officially surrendered. They're offering peace terms." Hannah felt nothing. No joy, no relief. Just emptiness. How many did we lose? 2 million military. 8 million civilians. But 7 billion survived because of you. Numbers. Always numbers. Hannah closed her eyes. The government decided to reveal her identity. They said humanity deserved to know who saved them. News broadcasts showed her face, her name, her service record. Suddenly, everyone knew about Major Lee Hannah, the Ghost, the Reaper. She returned to school for her last week before graduation. Everything was different. Students stared at her. Teachers didn't know how to act. Kim Ji-woo tried to apologize for years of ignoring her. Hannah just walked past. She found Doyeon on the roof during lunch. He was leaning against the railing, looking at the city. Visible repair crews worked on damaged buildings. Signs of the battle were everywhere. "You could have told me," Doyeon said quietly. "All this time. Every day we talked, you were fighting and dying, and I had no idea." "I couldn't," Hannah said. "It was classified, and I wanted one part of my life that was normal. One person who saw me as just Hannah, not a soldier." Doyeon turned to look at her. "I still see you as Hannah, the quiet girl who sits alone at lunch. My friend. The rest is just what you do, not who you are." They talked for hours about everything. The war, the cost, the future. Doyeon admitted he was scared of the academy now, knowing what war really meant. Hannah told him that was good. Fear meant you would be careful. "What will you do now?" he asked. "I don't know. I've been fighting since I was 14. I don't know how to be anything else." Graduation came. Hannah walked across the stage to receive her diploma. The entire audience stood and applauded. Medals covered her formal military uniform. She was the most decorated soldier in human history at 21 years old, but the moment that mattered was after the ceremony. Doyeon found her outside and handed her a coffee. "Thought you might need this." They sat on the school steps, drinking coffee and watching other students celebrate with their families. Hannah felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace, not the absence of war, but actual inner peace. Admiral Song had offered her a permanent command position, leadership of Earth's entire military, but Hannah declined. She had given enough years to war. Now she needed to figure out who she was beyond being a soldier. "Want to get lunch sometime?" Doyeon asked. "Just two normal people, not talking about war or school or anything serious. Just hanging out." Hannah smiled, really smiled, for the first time in years. "I'd like that." The war was over. The invisible girl had saved the world. Millions died, but billions lived. Hannah would carry the weight of those deaths forever. The faces of fallen soldiers would haunt her nightmares. But she would also carry forward. Learn to live in the peace she had fought for. On the battlefield, she had been unstoppable. At school, she had been invisible. Now, finally, she could be herself. Visible on her own terms. No longer hiding, no longer fighting. Just Hannah, figuring out what came next. The future was uncertain and a little scary. But for the first time, it was hers to choose. And that made all the difference.